Hey guys, tonight we're wandering into a story that starts quiet, but hits like a freight train if you've ever tried to love someone and failed spectacularly. You're standing in the kitchen, there's sunlight slanting across the counter, a piece of toast burnt on one side, and silence so thick you could probably slice it into thirds. The mug in your hand is warm, but your marriage isn't. You're blinking at your wife, who just said the words no one thinks they'll hear in real life. Maybe you should disappear. Not leave. Not separate. Disappear. And here's the kicker. You don't argue. You just nod once, the kind of nod you give when your phone battery dies mid-GPS and you pretend you know where you're going. You leave the house with only your keys, your wallet, and that old gray hoodie you never actually washed but always wore. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I'm always curious who's dreaming alongside us. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're halfway down the street before you feel it. The end of something. The funny thing is, ancient Romans used to believe in the genius loci, a spirit of the place, and you swear the air around your front door has changed. Historians still argue whether moments like these are driven more by impulse or accumulated microcracks. Either way, you don't look back. Not even when a neighbor waves like it's just another Thursday. The first night is the strangest. You check into a cheap roadside motel, the kind with flickering neon signs and carpet that smells faintly like old cologne and sadness. The bedspread is stiff, and the air conditioning sounds like it's trying to escape its own existence. You lie there, fully clothed, shoes still on, wondering if this counts as freedom or just a quieter version of being lost. The motel's nightstand holds a Gideon Bible, a remote with half the buttons missing, and a room service menu that serves nothing past 8 p.m. You opt for vending machine pretzels and a lukewarm orange soda. That's dinner. That's day one of vanishing. Somewhere around 2 a.m., you start Googling how to live off-grid. You find a forum where a guy named BearClaw47 swears by peanut butter, duct tape, and learning the phases of the moon. Fun fact, ancient Mesopotamians tracked the moon phases using clay tablets, probably not to avoid modern heartbreak, but it's comforting to know even they looked up at the sky for answers. Historians still argue whether these tablets were scientific records or spiritual rituals, but hey, either way, they were looking for patterns in the chaos. Like you delete your social media accounts one by one. Facebook, Instagram, even your old Reddit username that no one ever knew was yours. Watching them disappear feels like peeling off dead skin. It's itchy and weird and a little bit satisfying. You fall asleep eventually, not because you're tired, but because there's nowhere else to go in your head. And just like that, you've vanished. Not with drama or fireworks, just with the slow, dull ache of someone who finally listened when told to go. You wake up the next morning with your back screaming from the motel mattress, but there's a certain clarity and discomfort. You grab a bus to nowhere in particular, literally picking a route at random. The driver barely glances at your ticket. No one asks your name. It's kind of poetic, in a fugitive meets budget travel sort of way. The bus rolls past endless stretches of cracked highway and shuttered gas stations, and you wonder how many people have sat in this exact seat, trying to outrun their own pasts. A fun detour here. Did you know the first long-distance bus routes in the U.S. were launched by Greyhound back in 1914? Back then, people traveled not to disappear, but to chase dreams westward. Now you're doing it backward, riding away from everything you built. There's a guy 2 rows back coughing like he's personally trying to exercise a lung. A woman up front plays Candy Crush with the volume on high. Somewhere in the middle, a toddler sobs for someone named Grandma. It's strangely comforting. Chaos is the same wherever you go. By the time you land in a town you've never heard of, Tulare, maybe, or some other place that sounds like a salad green, you decide this is it. You get off, stretch, and walk until your phone dies. You pawn your watch. It buys you 2 nights in a local hostel that smells like old toast and ambition. You don't tell anyone your story. You make up a new name, Dan, or maybe Blake. You keep switching it, even in your own head, just to keep the illusion alive. Historians still debate whether ancient Roman soldiers took on pseudonyms when deserting their posts, but it wouldn't surprise you. Sometimes, survival means becoming someone else. Even if only for a little while, you land a job under the table at a mechanic's garage that doesn't ask questions and pays in cash, just enough to cover rent in a windowless room above a laundromat. The walls are the color of old milk cartons and the radiator hisses like it's judging you. You name it Steve. Steve, the judgmental radiator. Your hands grow calloused, your back stiffens, and your dreams start skipping reels. You work late, sleep hard, and avoid mirrors. It's a life built on duct tape and denial. And weirdly, you're starting to get good at it. One afternoon, while elbow-deep in a transmission and nursing a splinter the size of a knitting needle, you hear the boss mention the Battle of Hastings, of all things. Apparently, his daughter has a history paper due. You toss in a casual 1066, right? And suddenly you're the shop's trivia king. That night, you Google the battle and realize William the Conqueror's claim to the English throne wasn't exactly airtight. Historians still argue whether Harold really saw that comet as a bad omen, or just really bad luck. In your downtime, you start reading again. Paperbacks from the library, stuff left behind in the break room. There's a tattered copy of The Old Man and the Sea, and you find yourself nodding along. Man versus ocean, you versus memory, same genre, different fish. You're invisible here, which is its own kind of magic. No one expects you to explain yourself. No one knows you used to collect mugs shaped like cats, or that you once cried watching a documentary about sea otters. And yet, even in this obscurity, your wife's voice clings to the edges of your thoughts. What she said, how she didn't cry when she said it. You repeat it like a curse or a prayer. I need you to disappear. You're halfway through your shift when a customer walks in wearing your exact cologne, one you haven't touched in years. That stupid citrus wood blend that your wife once said made you smell like a CEO with a guilty conscience. It freezes you. For a second, you forget what year it is, or where your wrench went. That night, you dig it out of your old duffel bag, tucked behind socks you haven't worn since you vanished. You press the nozzle and close your eyes. Just once. The scent hits like time travel. Suddenly, you're back on your honeymoon, watching her laugh as she flicks gelato off your nose in Florence, right in front of that replica of Michelangelo's David. Historians still argue whether David's tiny proportions were artistic symbolism or just the marble playing tricks on the eye. Either way, the statue's been scrutinized more than your entire marriage ever was. You stumble back onto your mattress, blinking hard. You thought you were getting better at this. Better at forgetting. But memory is sticky, like soda spilled on a diner booth, easy to wipe, impossible to clean. The next day, you start running in the mornings. Just you, the uneven sidewalk, and your sneakers that squeak like mice in distress. You dodge dog walkers, coffee zombies, and one guy who insists on practicing medieval sword moves in the park. Apparently that's a thing. HEMA, they call it Historical European Martial Arts. Real swords, real bruises. Modern-day LARPing, but with insurance claims. As you jog past, he salutes you with his foam-tipped broadsword, like some knighted barista. You nod back, because why not? You're a ghost with a heartbeat, a vanished man finding his footing among the strange and unspoken, and for now, that's enough. It's your 4th year living small when you finally admit it. You miss music. Not background noise, but the soundtrack of your past. The vinyl crackle, the long road trip playlists, the off-key duets in the kitchen. So, on a whim, you grab a dusty acoustic guitar from a thrift store. The strings are crustier than medieval dental tools, but it still sings. Sort of. At night, you sit on the steps outside your trailer, plucking out sad, wandering chords. A few neighbors glance up from their beers or barbecues, but no one interrupts. It's your quiet confession, sung to the wind and bugs, and it helps. Like the way Roman soldiers once sang marching songs to numb their legs and boost morale. Some of those melodies, called Carmen, were so catchy that the lyrics survived even when the language didn't. Historians still argue whether the songs were improvised or memorized drills passed down for generations. Either way, rhythm had a job to do. You hum one of your old favorites. Her favorite too. The one you used to dance to barefoot in the hallway, wine still swirling in your glass, dinner burning behind you because you got distracted by each other. You forget the lyrics halfway through and laugh out loud. It feels like cheating. Later, in the quiet, you reread a letter you never sent. The first draft was venom. The second, apology. Now it's just a folded truth, creased and softened by time. You read it in her voice, not yours. A neighbor's kid tosses a pebble your way and asks what song you're playing. You say you're not sure. It's something old, something half-remembered, like you. You finally cave and visit your hometown again. Just a quick drive-through, you tell yourself. No nostalgia, no detours, but your hands have other plans. They steer off the main road, past the high school bleachers, past the diner where you both once argued over pie flavors like it was a UN summit. Your old house is still there. So is the mailbox with the dent she swore added character. You park across the street, heart doing laps. You spot her. Just her. No kids, no stroller. A reusable grocery bag slung over her shoulder like a sash. She looks tired, still beautiful. But tired, in that deep old kind of way. You duck, irrationally. Like a medieval spy, trying to avoid the city guard. Fun fact. In the Middle Ages, spies were often monks or traveling performers. They were allowed to move freely, so they collected secrets like they collected prayers. Historians still argue whether the church sanctioned it or simply turned a blind eye. Either way, a hooded figure with a harp was often more dangerous than a knight. You don't get out of the car, you just watch. A car honks behind you and you jolt, pulling off like you're fleeing a crime scene. Your palms sweat, your chest buzzes. She didn't see you. Or did she? You park 10 miles away and sit with that feeling. That heavy, dumb, human feeling that makes you want to shout your name from a rooftop and vanish all over again. You imagine walking up to her, saying, "Hey, I didn't vanish. You told me to go. And I listened. Isn't that what you wanted?" But instead, you whisper it to your steering wheel. And it doesn't answer back. You figure it's time. 5 years, countless cities, endless reinventions. And you're still orbiting her, like an ancient moon caught in a gravity you pretend doesn't pull. You send a letter. No return address, just your handwriting. You know she'll recognize the slant. You say, "Meet me, if you want." A date, a time, and a bench by the old Riverwalk. You're there first, obviously. Early enough to study the ducks paddling like Renaissance courtiers in ridiculous feathered hats. Historians still argue whether Henry VIII's court fashion was political theater or pure narcissism. Either way, ducks would have fit right in. The river glides along like it's forgotten everything. But you haven't. Every splash feels like a memory dragging its nails across the surface. You almost leave. You almost don't show up to your own resurrection. But then, there she is. She walks slow, not cautious, deliberate. Her eyes don't scan. They lock on you immediately, like you were yesterday, like you were 5 minutes ago. And then she sits right beside you, not across, not angled, like there's no ocean of time, no frostbitten silence between you. You both just breathe. It's not dramatic. No storm clouds, no tearful monologue. The drama is in the quiet. Like the eruption that doesn't come. Like the Pompeii that never smokes, but still buries you just the same. She breaks the silence first. Her voice doesn't tremble. It folds. "I didn't mean for you to disappear." And you don't know if she's crying or if it's just your own chest doing backflips in slow motion. "I thought," she says, "if I gave you space, you'd fight for me." So that's the twist. You lean back on the bench, the slats cool against your spine. That sentence, I thought you'd fight for me. It curls inside your lungs like smoke you can't cough out. You remember now, the way she said it, 5 years ago. Maybe you should go. The flick of her wrist, the exhausted sigh. You thought she meant it. Turns out it was a test you never knew you were taking. And you failed. You glance at her hand. No ring now. Maybe there never was another someone, or maybe he's gone. Maybe she's done waiting for what was never going to be the same again. She pulls out an old photo from her coat pocket. Creased, sun-bleached, the two of you at that absurd Renaissance fair. You're both in costume. You wore tights. She made you. Historians still argue whether medieval nobles actually dressed that ridiculously, or if modern Ren fairs just exaggerated for fun. Either way, you looked like a lute player who'd lost his lute and his dignity. She hands it to you. You don't take it. You just stare at it, feeling the ache of nostalgia deep in your molars, like a tooth you never fixed. I kept it in my wallet, she says, all 5 years. A riverboat passes behind you. The music from its deck drifts on the breeze. Some corny jazz tune probably meant to charm tourists. You wonder if the band even realizes they're scoring a moment that will tattoo itself onto your memory. You finally speak. Just one word. Why? She blinks. Because I thought you'd come back. And there it is. The irony is cruel. You both waited for the other to move, like Cold War powers, each assuming the next move meant surrender. Historians still debate what actually ended the Cold War. Diplomacy, economics, or dumb luck. You wonder the same about your marriage. The bench beneath you creaks as you shift, trying to settle into a silence that feels less like a pause and more like a chasm. You breathe in the cool evening air, a mix of wet earth and distant barbecue smoke, the kind of smell that sticks to clothes and memories alike. Did you ever think you'd be here again? Two strangers with a shared past, weighing heavier than the Mississippi? You glance at her, really look, and see the cracks you missed before, the subtle way her smile fades just a little too quickly, the way her eyes dart when she thinks you're not watching. You remember that the Great Pyramids of Egypt took decades, centuries even, to build, stone by patient stone. Historians still argue whether they were tombs or giant astronomical calendars, but either way, patience was key. Maybe that's what you both lacked. The river flows, unstoppable and indifferent, like time itself. You both tried to bottle it, capture it, freeze it in a moment you could hold on to forever. But time doesn't work like that. It erodes, reshapes, sometimes obliterates. You reach out, brushing her hand with yours, a tentative bridge over years of silence and unspoken words. I never wanted to vanish, you say softly. I just didn't know how to stay. She nods, a tear slipping down, catching the fading light. Me too, she whispers. And for a fleeting moment, you both wonder if maybe, just maybe, some things can be rebuilt. Slowly, imperfectly, but real. Outside, a lone cricket chirps, a small reminder that even in the quietest moments, life goes on. Word count, 325. Wind down, the evening deepens. The river's gentle murmur soothes the jagged edges of your shared past. Your breath slow, syncing with the natural rhythm around you. Time seems to fold inward, softening regrets into lessons. You realize that sometimes the hardest goodbyes teach the most about holding on, and that healing often arrives not with grand gestures, but with quiet presence. As night wraps its velvet cloak around you, let this moment of fragile peace linger, an ember glowing faintly in the dark. You're safe here, with your story gently unfolding, carried on by the endless flow of time and hope. Let yourself drift now, knowing that even the deepest wounds can mend softly beneath the stars.